welcome to the Gaming Pulpit, and today we're going to be discussing The Witcher 3, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Horizon Zero Dawn. First, I want to actually talk about the skies, the cloud rendering of each game. You got some god rays here. There's a technical term for this shit, but this is what this game is doing in The Witcher. Pretty nice. I think the skies or the clouds are pretty much sprite based with some normal mapped settings there. For Red Dead Redemption, they actually have some biometric clouds here, which is pretty cool. It doesn't have quite as much detail as Horizon, which you can clearly see here. I mean, with Horizon, they are actually simulating light bounces within that cloud there. Coming up next is the actual water. And what you can see here is that what The Witcher 3 does is they basically have shader-based water. So it doesn't have any kind of real biometric details. It's all shader-based. Same thing with Horizon Zero Dawn. This is actually shader-based as well. I think the best looking water actually this generation would be any kind of Ubisoft game. They usually are killing it with the biometric. This is actually doing biometric too, but it's a little bit too thick. But at least it's super interactive. They have a mixture of shaders and biometrics going on here. So that's pretty cool. Got to give it to them with the whole water thing. There's a little follow-up too that it actually interacts with the anything really. The shaders interact with anything, including the horses. It does it in Horizon Zero Dawn too, but I tried to make this video as short as possible, and I ended up it was too long. Too long of a video, but you can clearly see here that they have a lot of shaders there. Next is actual texture maps. This game is a pretty old game, so you can't really expect too much of this shit. I mean, I think they're killing it with here. Nice little shadows there, little NPCs and things like that. It's pretty cool. The texture detail here is a mixture between high-res textures and high polygon meshes. In terms of this, Red Dead actually they use a lot of shaders, parallax occlusion mapping shaders, where this game doesn't have any, if I'm not mistaken. You have high resolution textures. I'll get into that in a little bit, but it looks like with The Witcher 3, they tried to do a little bit of both. You know, try to have polygonal details and texture details as well. It's pretty average results. Here you can see some parallax occlusion mapping. See, there's a thing with parallax occlusion mapping. It's there's a lot of layers to make parallax occlusion mapping work. So you're not going to have high resolution details, and with this one, there's a trade-off. You know, you're gonna either have really complicated textures with kind of okay-ish resolution, or you're gonna have super complex high resolution without the layers there. Once again, it's up to you in terms of artistic value, or what you prefer. I did like the specular mapping there. That was pretty cool. Over here, anyway, we're going to talk about foliage, and this game actually has a lot of interactive foliage, just some brushes that don't interact, but it's pretty cool. I like how the light bounces off of there. There's no real subsurface scattering for the leaves, so you don't have light shining through the leaves, or if it does, it's not that great. There are, contrary to belief, interactive foliage in Horizon Zero Dawn, so you can clearly see that. This is probably the best case where you have your character interact depending on how high the foliage is, which is pretty cool. This is coming directly off of Grand Theft Auto. Alright, now we're going to talk about rain. Rain looks pretty similar in Red Dead Redemption. I couldn't get a video displaying that shit either. But the rain in here is super saturated. There's a lot of particles to make the actual raindrops. It clearly is affecting the environment. A lot of specular lighting. Now we're going to talk about draw distance. So it seems to me that the draw distance in The Witcher is covered by mountains in the background, but they do render these, trees like super far out. This one is the same thing here. There's like a line that's cut basically in terms of interactive trees and stuff like that. I'm gonna talk about that in a little bit. There's a pretty high distance there too with draw distance. Lastly, we want to talk about NPCs. I think that the NPCs in this game is pretty detailed. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think I like it. I didn't expect it to be that detailed, but it was pretty damn detailed. I'm not gonna lie to you. For I don't know, what is this, like a 4-year-old game, 3 years old? This is pretty cool too. I think they just need the physics-based rendering for textures. And here is the last part. This is the actual game in Pulpit. We're going to talk about a couple of things as well. This is basically 10 minutes of talking about a whole bunch of shit. So, to finish off what we were talking about before, in terms of rendering details, quite frankly, and keep an eye out for the NPCs in this area. They do talk and stuff like that, but I ended up muting it because I didn't want to confuse myself and stuff like that while I'm talking. But I will say, it looks like Red Dead. I mean, a lot of people are saying that Red Dead looks really, really good, and that's fine. It does. It's a really good looking game, I'm not going to lie to you. But it's not top tier. It's been in development for almost 10 years, so they had time to do all these little details and stuff like that. That's no excuse, but I think Rockstar is the only developer that can really get away with having such a long development cycle just to make one game, because it's automatically going to basically, sell money. It is. It's automatically going to sell it. But going on to rendering details, back to graphics and stuff like that. When you do graphics, you have techniques that you, depending on your engine and what you want to do. And it seems like it's easier to do like a level of detail, like to take some layers of texture off in a distance and then add them in as you get closer and closer to it. I think surely due to the draw distance that the game has, it's a lot of flat lands that it is rendering, I will say that. And it's not difficult to do. When you start having like really intricate mountains in the background or the city escapes and stuff like that, that's super hard to do. There's no doubt about it. That's a very hard concept to do. But it fits, for the flatlands, it fits Red Dead perfectly. And they fine-tuned that whole development cycle. You couldn't get any more fine-tuned than that. You can't. But the differences between, because I can't really mention The Witcher, because The Witcher is an older game. So it doesn't do physics-based lighting. It doesn't do a lot of different things. It's a good-looking game, but strictly off of artistic values. Now, I will say this: the checkerboard rendering that they use, and you're probably going to notice that when you look at the video, but the checkerboard rendering that they do use in The Witcher, because that does 4K checkerboard rendering, is but by far shits on Red Dead's version. I don't know what the fuck they're doing, but it really muddies the image. It looks like you're watching everything through a screen door. Like, those old grandma doors where you have like the little net in front of the door. It's supposed to be glass, but it's there to allow breeze to go through, but you can't have any insects to go through and stuff like that. That's what it looks like to me. It's like a screen door effect everywhere. It takes away texture detail. I've never seen anything as bad as that. It's fucking ass. So you got that going on. But anyway, they decided to use texture details that simulate depth and detail, actual, detail versus horizon. This engine supposedly is pumping out a lot of polygonal shapes. It pumps out a lot of shapes. So they can afford to not use those textures. And I believe it's easier for the engine to pump out shapes versus a lot of, it's faster, I should say, to pump out shapes than actual textures. And that's probably what they were trying to go for. And I don't know. To be honest with you, neither looks worse than the other, you know what I mean? And it depends on what your engine is good at, They made this engine good at, like, shapes. That's by far, and maybe they can do some stuff to you know, maybe in their sequel can do some parallax occlusion mapping and stuff like that in conjunction with the stuff they have in select areas. So, but I was looking at The Witcher and stuff like that, and it's a clearer game. It's using checkerboard rendering, but it's definitely a clearer game. Some other stuff that I want to talk about in general is just Red Dead Redemption 2's atmosphere, and I started noticing here. So I'm going to take a pause from this. So this is an area, you guys didn't see it, but if you do have the game, I implore you to actually look at it. It's called Day Tower. So you've got obviously a day and night cycle here. So what happens in the middle of the night is that these guys that you're looking at in the video, it starts to thin out during the day to nothing. There's nothing there. So at the start of that, you know, point, you'll see no one here in this area. Eventually, as it becomes like actual daytime and morning, you'll see more and more people come to work, and they'll sit down, they'll have their morning breakfast. I mean, obviously eating chicken. I'm not sure why they leave it on the table. Maybe it was supposed to be plates or whatever the case is. But they'll do their, you know, they'll eat, they'll talk, they'll wave hi to each other, and then they'll go about their business to their duties. Some people clean the tables. This wagon over here, some people fix the wagon that's there. Some people grab a broom and they start sweeping. You know, and they all have different things to say that they notice. There's a Banuk outfit, which is what Aloy is wearing right now. They comment on her being a savage, and she's not supposed to be wearing Banuk and stuff like that. So they have all that stuff there. I noticed when I was playing The Witcher, though, that's the funny thing. When I was playing The Witcher, the guys kind of like stayed in place when it came to towns like this. When it was smaller towns, then they kind of moved around. They went inside the house. Going back to The Witcher, I'm sorry, Red Dead Redemption. One of the cool things that I did notice is that the AI actually interacts with each other, like consistently. And I think that's where the city comes to life with any, you know, NPC driven game. You start to really see the AI come to life when they talk to each other and they interact. And that's what this game lacks. Although these guys have a cycle, it is not a deep cycle where they communicate with each other. And that's very jarring when you see the game. And that's why people say that the environment looks dead and stuff like that. But it has a lot of the makings of being an interactive, you know, environment. Rockstar has so many years, decades to actually work on this. They had 2 decades to really fine-tune their sandbox games. And I think that's where it shows and stuff like that. So this is Guerrilla Games' first attempt at an open world game. So you got to give credit to where it's due. I will say that. And last but not least, in terms of Red Dead Redemption, there's a lot of talks on if it's overrated, if it's boring, and things like that. Listen, I'm enjoying myself. I like it. I will say that it's not the best graphically enriched game. It's very cohesive, I should say. That's the better word for it. It's a very cohesive game. So there's a lot of people that are just fucking saying that Horizon looks worse and just all sorts of crazy shit. And let me just put it out there. The difference between Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 Pros is literally resolution. Everything else is the same, and people don't understand that. A lot of fanboys out there saying that it's the best game of all time on the Xbox One because of 4K. No. The game is fine-tuned. It really looks very similar to Grand Theft Auto 5. You should really do some comparison videos or watch some comparison videos online. Is it an overrated game? I'll say no. Is it the best game of all time? It's also a no. It's definitely not the best game of all time. Is it like Red Dead Redemption? It's very similar to that. So how can that be the best game of all time when Red Dead was already doing it in the first place? That's what people need to understand. It's a very well made game. It's not the best game of all time. It's definitely not the best looking game of all time, and people need to get over it. It's not. Be that as it may, they did a lot of really cool things, and I appreciate it. Even though it's very slow, you know, there are a lot of people that don't have an imagination. That's cool. By the way, that's my stance on it. Let me know in the comments what you liked about the video, what you disliked about the video, and if you liked it, a super sub would be appreciated, guys. Hopefully you catch me next time.